Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, for checking out the series. Of course, you know what to do if you like what you see, what you hear. Hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I'm so excited today. Sun-Hyung Lee is here. Avatar: The Last Airbender is now out on Netflix. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you. Such an admirer of what you do, and this series that you are really the heart of. I think a lot of
Oh,
people are
wow.
saying that. It's so great. First off, I just want to say the entire season, I didn't know what to expect, and I loved every bit of it. I love what you guys do, and I think I was a little bit intimidated because when there are these shows that if they're they've got history. I don't
Mhm.
want to compare it to Doctor Who because that's really overwhelming. Like, where do you drop in? But I found like, oh, how am I going to deal with it? How am I? If do I not know anything? And you didn't need anything. It's just such a great series that you all have pulled off, and I still feel like I'm part of the club. If that makes
Oh,
sense.
wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, that's a great thing to hear because that's really what we set out to do is to bring in new fans, but also to make the OG fans happy that it's familiar enough that it is true to the original to the source material, but it's still new for them as well. So thank you so much for those words.
Yeah. What do you think it is? What is it about this series that has compelled so many people, to feel ownership in it through these years?
Well, it's a lot of things. I think it's great storytelling, the great compelling characters, relatable characters, but it's also kind of a generational thing. There were a lot of people I've a lot of fans that I've spoken to who grew up watching this series, and so it was. Excuse me, they watch it during the formative years of their lives where they're very impressionable, and it kind of sticks with them because it sort of it touches them in a way and inspires them in a way during a period in their lives where they're just growing as well. And so, like, for me, that was Star Wars,
Mhm.
right? Like, that was the thing I grew up watching, and it's stayed a part of my life. And I think Avatar is has the same effect. And every generation has their epic story of young adventurers going off. There's the Harry Potter universe is another example, and then you have Percy Jackson, and that continues on and on and on. But I mean, Avatar, they've had such a loyal fan base, and it continues to grow, which is really cool. And I honestly think it's because it is fantastic storytelling, and again, it's these characters that everybody can see a bit of themselves reflected in,
Yeah.
and so it's fun.
Well, especially like especially in the past few years, you've found a home in fantasy. Also mentioning Star Wars there. Do you find as an actor, because in these type of shows, sometimes you have to deliver lines that might not be natural in real life, as we're talking about
Right.
hero's quest type of stuff. Like, do you find that this is a comfortable spot for you?
Oh, I love it. It's my jam. I mean, I grew up a nerd. This is like this dialogue means it's like a second tongue, right? It's I slip into those worlds really really easily because I love them. I grew up with them. I'm intimately familiar with them, so I kind of get the assignment in that sense. And yeah, the dialogue can be heightened at times, can seem unnatural, but really these are we're talking about different. This isn't a contemporary sort of society that we're trying to show on the screens. What we're doing is these are fantasy worlds, and people are going to speak differently. And what might come out very awkwardly for us should roll off of their tongues, and never mind how it sounds. I mean, it's like Shakespeare, right? Nobody speaks like that anymore. And so there is that evolution. So, and yes, I just did compare some of the dialogue in these fantasy elements to Shakespeare.
But you're not wrong about that either. I mean, you sure that can sound silly, but you're exactly right about that
Mhm.
in that way. And that's it. I mean, because everything, if it's done right, everything's believable, and everything is believable with this. So it's an easy seg to ask: how did you want to bring this character to life? Because here again, he's someone that's existed in multiple forms already.
Yeah.
Like, what was your idea? What did you want to give this?
Well, huge shoes to fill initially too. Iroh is a beloved character, and people are fiercely protective of him because he means so much to them, because he is a lovable, inspirational, nurturing, caring character who is an intrinsic part of Prince Zuko's storyline and his character development. And so it was with a tremendous amount of respect, reverence, and love that I wanted to approach this character, because I didn't want to mess it up. Um, and there are times where it felt a little daunting. It's like, am I up to snuff? Am I going to be good enough to do this? Are people going to accept what I bring to the table? And that entire journey was fraught with different decisions. And is this right? Are we doing the right thing? First and foremost, like I said, it is big shoes to fill, but what I didn't want to do was to do a bad copy of the character. Mako Uematsu, who voiced the original character in the animated series, is a fantastic performer. I remember watching him in Conan the Barbarian when I was a kid. That distinctive, lovely voice of his, that is, it has gravitas, but is comforting at the same time and is capable of such a range. I didn't want to go in and be a really bad impersonator. I'm not a mimic. That's not what I was hired to do. I was hired to portray this character and bring as much depth and humor and love to him as I possibly could. I wanted to make him from a 2-dimensional animated character to a 3-dimensional living being. Mm-hmm. And that came with a set of challenges. One was I didn't sound like Mako. The voice was not going to be the same voice that everybody who loved him, because that's a very distinctive part of that character. But I knew I couldn't do the voice, and it would be foolish to even consider doing so. And I think disrespectful. Not only the fact that that's Mako's actual voice in the cartoon series. I don't speak that way. And the other element was, for me, was I was fan cast as Iroh in 2018, almost immediately once people started talking, when Netflix announced that they were doing a live action adaptation. And I think a lot of it had to do with, of course, I look like the animated version. I'm Asian, got no hair, got the beard rocking. And I was playing a character at the time, Mr. Kim from Kim's Convenience, who spoke with an accent. Mm-hmm. And, the difference between those two, though, is, Mako's accent is Japanese. Mr. Kim's is Korean. So it's a different accent altogether. B, the accent that I used in Kim's Convenience was from a lived experience. That's my dad's voice. I grew up with it. It's an intrinsic part of who I am. I pay honor to my dad by using it. And I never tried to use it. I always try to use it for good, not for evil. You know what I mean? It was never to make fun of my dad or make fun of people with accents or this or that. And so that was a big thing. We had a discussion with Albert Kim, who's a head showrunner, about using an accent and employing one. And I didn't want to, because I didn't want to be as well. I didn't want to be disrespectful to the memory of Mako, but I didn't want to be that accent guy. I'm a crafted actor. And I think I proved it as well through Kim's Convenience, because a lot of people thought I actually spoke with an accent, and they're often very shocked when they hear my real voice. And so all those things in mind, I thought, okay, what can I focus on? Because I am not going to be a mimic. I'm not going to imitate Mako. I need to make this character my own, because I'm an actor. I'm an artist. I need to bring my own elements to it. So in studying Iroh and watching the series, because I was a fan of the series beforehand, the things that really stuck out for me about Iroh that I really wanted to get across was his compassion, his love for family, his love for Zuko, the tremendous amount of loss he felt in terms of losing his son, Liu Ten, but also realizing that his life trajectory had been, the first part of his life was basically, he was on the wrong path. And it took the death of his son to realize that this was not his way, and to make that shift and to change from the dreaded dragon of the West to Uncle Iroh, who loves Zuko. And that's the one thing that we really worked on hard, Dallas and I, was that relationship between the two. I think we brought it a level of depth, especially in first season, that you don't see in the first book of the animated series. They delve into it a little bit later in the animated series, but it was such a gift and such a pleasure to have that opportunity to play those new scenes. And spoiler alert, I'm talking about episode 4, Liu Ten's funeral. Dallas just rocked that scene. as a lovely, lovely, young, naive, compassionate Zuko who tries to do the proper thing and say these empty words, but then realizing that it's hollow, and him going back and really sort of telling that lovely, lovely tale about Luten and their connection. And so those are the elements of Iroh that I really want to bring first and foremost. And I think so far so good. The fans have seen it. There is that, and I didn't want to lose the joviality of Iroh as well. There are moments in there, but the thing is, when you're condensing 22 half-hour episodes into 8 one-hour episodes, there's not a lot of time to focus on certain elements of the characters that people like. And so he might not be as humorous as he was in a cartoon, but what I think we brought was a richness of depth and background and motivation for Iroh as to why he's with Zuko and what he's doing there. And so that's just for me, it was staying true to the spirit of Iroh, and bringing my own sort of lived experiences to help inform that.
Yeah.
And
there's a moment where the Earthbender says you have no humanity, and there's just a look in your eye, and it's just one of those moments where it's like that did so much more than any line could have done, and but it's also interesting. Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry. No, it's just, I got to give props to Albert Nasrallah, who played the earthbending soldier. I mean, my gosh, I'm getting these big fat lobs up in it. Like, they're just setting them up for me to smash down, right? And you're only as good as your scene partner. And with Dallas and with Albert and with everybody that I had a scene with, and Gordon, the prison scenes, they make it so easy because they give so much. And, they deserve that recognition, right? And I benefit from that directly. But I think the whole scene and the story benefits from that as well, because they're so memorable, because they're so grounded and so real. And that's what we wanted to bring as well. Like, I wanted to bring a really grounded Iroh.
Yeah. Well, and to have this conversation where, in a lot of movies, there's the obvious good guy and there's the obvious bad guy. And we're pretty sure we know who the good guys and the bad guys are here.
Right.
But for you all, to be these firebenders and as a culture are wreaking havoc and destruction, but to be as part of your journey as the airbender, like, we don't usually get that. Usually the bad guys show up when they're the obstacle.
Yeah.
And so being on your journey, yes, we're thinking, okay, maybe this is a redemption story, but you don't know, right? But it's such an interesting way of telling the story that I so appreciate it, because we don't get that,
Yeah, there's a lovely complexity to it as well, where things aren't as simple as it may seem. And I love that the writers have layered that in. You look at Iroh, for example, and you go, okay, well, he's a lovely, caring, compassionate man. But those scenes with the earthbending soldier shows, he was vicious and ruthless in battle. He laid siege to a city that was filled with women and children, and basically tried to starve them out for 600 days. He killed, hundreds. He was responsible for the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of human beings. And so he's not clean either, and he's on his sort of redemption. And that's what it's never, life is never as simple as that. And I think when stories, and there's a place for it in stories, absolutely, good versus bad, and you have those clear delineations, but it's always so much more interesting, I find, when you can, weave in those subtleties. It's like, I kind of I don't agree, but I kind of see where they're coming from. It's very rare that it's as cut and dry as we would like it to be sometimes.
Right. And with the elements, it sort of being a paper, rock, scissors game with everyone. And in the end, you just see these battles, and when you watch these shows and you think about what's going on in the real world, and you're just like, and war is the dumbest thing that you could ever have. And it just plays so well with that conversation, which is another thing I appreciated in here. Now that you've done this, and Star Wars, is a part of your life as well. Life before and after being a part of universes, has it changed, to quote you, your nerddom?
No, I don't think. It's changed the amount of stuff I've been able to buy, much to my wife's chagrin, right? Like, I've got a little bit more extra collector money. out there. But no, I mean, I still love these genres. I think I understand a little bit more the process of creating and how difficult it is to create these worlds that we love so much, that we often as fans take for granted. I mean, we are living in a golden age of intellectual properties for all these fandoms. If you're a nerd, this is your time with all these shows that are coming out. And I think there's also, we forget and we get spoiled sometimes, because I do remember that desolate wasteland of no new content other than comic books and expanded universe novels in Star Wars.
Right.
You know, after, Return of the Jedi was done, that's it, wasteland. No new toys, no new movies, no TV shows, nothing until the prequels in 1999. And it's the same thing with Avatar. Yes, there was animated series and books and whatnot, but there was a whole, 5 years before the movie came out, and a lot of people weren't happy with that. And then another 14 years before anything live action gets. So, I mean, there are times where we as fans, we get excited for things, but then in our excitement and being overzealous and wanting to protect things, the things that we love the most, we don't care what we rip through. And the one thing that I've really, really learned, especially being on Star Wars and on Avatar, is there are human beings working on these projects that have the best of intentions, that love the source material as much as you do, and they're trying their hardest. And there's so many other factors that, the general public doesn't realize play into decision making. And I've become far more respectful and more cautious in terms of how I voice my opinion. Because on the other side of that, the internet has made it so anonymous, and so you don't see the effect it has on people. And sometimes we lose sight of that. Yeah. And we make what we think is a very funny, witty comment, but it can be quite cutting and hurtful. So I'm very cognizant about that. So now that I know how the sausage is made, so to speak, I'm very, very careful about the criticism that I make, especially after having been participated in creating something. And I think anybody who wants to proclaim themselves as an expert in storytelling or this or that, make the content, put it out there and see what it's like.
Right.
Because it's a great journey. But you'll find that everybody's got an opinion and not everybody will agree with you. And so it's always good to just be kind. Be kind.
It's an excellent mantra there. I know I've only got a couple minutes. I did want to ask, especially about the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Were you supposed to be involved in the canceled spinoff, the Rangers of the New Republic?
That's what people keep saying.
Yeah.
I was never given, nobody spoke to me about that. Nobody from Lucasfilm, there's never an official offer for that. I was really hoping I would, but there was never, I kind of let the fans do the heavy lifting on that. And if they want to believe that, absolutely. But I cannot confirm that. I can't.
Do you get informed of like the bigger plans of your character?
Nope.
Like you get the scripts.
Yeah, I get the scripts, and it's a wild roller coaster ride with it. It's like, oh, what's gonna happen next, right? And I'm at the point right now. I mean, at the beginning, I was just really happy to be involved, and I don't care. Let's do it. Let's do it. Now it's lovely that John and Dave have woven me in a little bit more to the fabric of that universe, and they're giving me more to do. And it's lovely as an actor and a professional to know that they trust in you and you bring something to the table that they want. And it's even better to connect with the fandom for them to like the character as well. But I don't think I've gotten to that level yet where they want to ask me, hey, so what do you think about this?
Yet.
Yes.
We all love what you do, and we love these characters that you embody and you bring to life. And that's certainly true for Avatar and The Last Airbender. Paul, seriously, this has been such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All three of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.